Our next deputants are here with the Chiefs of Ontario. I would ask that you come forward. There you are. I have one name, Isadore Day, and I'm going to ask that the gentleman sitting beside you identify yourself. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I would ask that the person sitting beside you identify.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Ballantyne, and I'm here with Regional Chief Day, and I'm the Chief of Staff for the Chiefs of Ontario.
You're going to have 5 minutes to address our committee, and then they will ask you some questions. Begin any time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to acknowledge the shared territories of the Mississaugas and of New Credit and the Haudenosaunee people who have lived in these lands in this region since time immemorial. I'm pleased to be joining you, Madam Chair, and committee members to acknowledge the work of Premier Kathleen Wynne, Minister Thibeault, staff of the Ministry of Energy for the Ontario Fair Hydro Plan, and specifically to the consideration for the First Nation delivery credit. The work of this proposed legislation has been in part to the successful collaboration between the Province of Ontario and First Nations in Ontario. On June 27, 2016, through the First Nations Ontario Political Accord and Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action, Minister of Energy Glenn Thibeault issued a letter to the Ontario Energy Board requesting that the board produce a report advising on options for an appropriate on-reserve First Nations energy rate. Over the course of 4 weeks, the Chiefs of Ontario Committee on Energy, in collaboration with the Ontario Energy Board, conducted engagement sessions to understand the energy challenges in First Nation communities and to understand what First Nation energy rate would look like. The underlying message was to eliminate the delivery charge. On March 2nd, 2017, the Province of Ontario announced the Ontario Fair Hydro Plan, which included the First Nation delivery credit. This was a welcoming and encouraging announcement. Not only would this directly benefit the daily lives of our First Nation citizens on reserve, it was also evidence that the provincial government is serious about the relationship based on reconciliation. The First Nation delivery credit assists in addressing the socioeconomic hardships in First Nation communities. Currently, First Nations energy customers are contributing approximately $90 million annually, not including the use of the land to support the energy network in Ontario, and most are seeing little to no recognition of their rights within their territories. At the engagement sessions, there were testimonials of First Nation residential account holders with obscenely high annual bills. Stories were told of employees considering early retirement to access pension funds to pay off their hydro bills. Annually, emergency bill relief band funds were quickly depleted because of the number of First Nation customers seeking relief beyond the provided Ontario Energy Savings Program and the Low-Income Energy Assistance Programs. First Nation members experienced feelings of helplessness about not being able to fully pay off their energy bills. This adds to the overwhelming socioeconomic stresses they already experience on a daily basis. The announcement of the Ontario Fair Hydro Plan was a welcome relief for those having to choose between keeping the lights on and food on the table. The federal and provincial governments have made commitments to take the necessary steps to repair the relationship with First Nations. They have committed to work towards reconciliation for the benefit of all those living on these lands known as Canada and Ontario. Implementing actions for affordable energy to First Nation customers in Ontario is a stepping stone toward a renewed relationship based on reconciliation and a new relationship with First Nations in the province of Ontario. And this, Madam Chair, contributes to the enhancement of First Nation lives. It is my hope that you will support the passing of this bill, not just acknowledging the relief of it, but what it brings to our citizens, but also the collaboration and renewed relationship this bill symbolizes. I want to thank the committee for their efforts in looking at this legislation, and we certainly want to again reiterate the support for this government and the work that has been done. Acknowledge the Premier and not just the current minister, but the former Minister of Energy, who I worked with, and we established the bilateral table, and we're not just looking at this particular issue, but this government has certainly been quite active over the last few years in working with First Nations in Ontario on energy overall. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Our first questions for you are from Mr. Tabbins.
Chief Day, thank you very much for taking the time to appear before us today. We appreciate it all of us. I guess the first question I have for you is, are you aware that 4 years from now, the reduction in prices will end and prices will start going up by close to 7% a year? And after about 6 years, then there will be an increase overall in our prices about 12% higher than they otherwise would have been.
Well, I understand that there are certain shifting of the debts that currently exist with Ontario's energy system. For us, we're not really looking at the business model on the side of government. Yes, we will be impacted down the road. We understand, just like everybody else. However, what's very fundamental here for us in this bill and how the Ontario Energy Board was able to justify its decision to have the delivery charge removed from First Nations is the fact that the debt is shifted from the tax from the ratepayer to the taxpayer, and we clearly have a level of immunity in our First Nations on taxation, and we clearly see this as a positive step forward. We realize that the road ahead is going to be fraught with challenges, ebbs and flows, and ups and downs. But in the meantime, what we will see is a reduction in the rate for our people in our communities with that specific delivery charge.
On the question of that specific delivery charge, again, the Financial Accountability Officer this morning in his briefing said that there was only funding for 4 years for those First Nation delivery credits for the Ontario Electricity Support Program. And there was no money in the budget after that. Is that something that the government consulted with you?
Well, we must state adamantly that this government has been in consultation with us. We understand that there are the economic models and the forecasting around how Ontario is going to continue to pay for this, and it extends the horizon of the debt. We understand this. We understand that this bill is going to ensure that there are mechanisms in place, and if there is short-sighted relief, then we also have those tables open where we will continue to advocate for our First Nation members and ensure that our interests continue to remain a priority with this government. We realize that there's going to be some heavy lifting going forward, and we're quite prepared to continue to sit at those tables.
So would it hurt your members? Would it hurt First Nations if that first...
Thank you. Our next questions for you are from MPP Delaney.
Thank you very much, Chair. So you realize that the Ontario Electricity Support Program is going to be made permanent?
Yes.
Okay, and that the Rural and Remote Rate Protection Program will be permanent?
Yes.
And that the First Nations credit changes are all being implemented permanently?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think the reactions of members of your community would be if either the legislation failed to pass or was subsequently repealed?
Well, I think the Ontario Energy Board has worked on the studies. There clearly is a political relationship that this particular government has with First Nations in Ontario. We have done extensive work with various ministries, and in this particular case, our work and success goes all the way back to the Ontario Green Energy and Economy Act, and we clearly see that it is necessary for us to continue to be at these tables. And should this bill not pass, it would be unfortunate, but we will certainly lean on the commitment that this particular government has made in terms of its political promises, and we will continue to forge forward as the commitment has been laid out to us. If it doesn't pass, we're going to find another way to push forward the issues and concerns of our citizens and ensure that we maintain a level of commitment from the other side of the table.
Do you feel that the province and the OEB have worked along with you to meaningfully engage Ontario's First Nations in the development of energy policy?
Yes, we have, and I just wanted to, make the point that starting from the Green Energy and Economy Act from the McGuinty days, we have not stopped in terms of being at the table on energy policy, so much so that I think we're nearing about 90% of our First Nation communities in Ontario have community energy plans, and that's a direct result of the collaboration with the Ontario government.
Is the ongoing relationship a respectful and professional one?
It very much is, and we are often at times bringing issues up, like we have the residential rate that is being removed from the bills. We also have facilities. We know we aren't going to get everything right now, but we have that open ear and that open process that we can bring these issues to the table. So it's a work in progress, and it's all about relationships at this point.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Our final questions for you are from MPP Walker.
Thank you very much, Chief Sharp and Ms. Valentine. Chief, you talked about relief, and I mean, I think all people want relief. That came out abundantly clear. Part of the problem is our rates have gone from 200 to 400% increases. So my concern, I guess, that as I'm debating this bill, is there's more and more relief programs they keep bringing on, but that's like putting a Band-Aid on the patient as opposed to actually fixing what the illness is. And I really struggle that they're actually going to spend the kind of money they are without truly addressing the systemic. So I think some of my colleagues have shared in this briefing that the rates are going to start to escalate again after the election. So my concern there for you, I trust, is the same thing. And I would ask, I guess, do you have a concern that they're doing a relief program as opposed to actually putting the money that they're now going to borrow for extending the, you said, I think, shifting the debt. It's really adding debt. It's definitely shifting it out, but it's adding more debt. Would that not have been better to take that money and put it into systemic things so that things like you need, like health care, like safe water, safe drinking, as opposed to spending more money on interest payments?
Well, let's look at that question for a second, because I believe there's a very important concept here. This is not a debt relief program. This is the removal of a percentage of the rate. The delivery charge will be removed from First Nations, and that's what's different here. This is going to be solidified. It is going to be regulated. It's going to be made into law, and basically we then see this as a success, and that portion that often breaks the backs economically of our families is going to be removed. So we realize that there will be ongoing pressures on Ontario's energy sector, and that there are some bigger issues at hand here. I liken this to consolidating debt and extending the amortization of that debt servicing. Basically, that's what the bigger picture is here, and I understand that that's a tough decision that this government has had to make, and it's one that we support right now, because part of that for us is going to be the removal of the delivery rate on our residences, and in the future our facilities.
And I certainly respect that there's going to be a rate relief for you, and that's good. But if you could take 25 to 43 billion, or in the most recent numbers up to 93 billion, this is going to cost. That could have put a lot more resources. I trust you might want to see more power generation done on many of your communities. So again, you're more self-sustaining. It's creating employment in your community. So my preference would have been to see them actually put money, if they can find that kind of money to borrow, is to put into things that I believe you've been asking for, like safe water, like safe living conditions, like opportunities for your people, as opposed to a really short, in my mind, relief that truly there's going to be other things. If that debt.
Thank you very much, and that's time. Chief Day and Ms. Valentine, thank you very much for